Tension with Russia is of this year's biggest geopolitical concerns, according to Eurasia Group, a risk consultancy firm. It's also warning about China's strict zero-COVID policy, the unchecked power of big tech, the significance of the U.S. midterms, and the effect of China's domestic policies on its growth and stability. Ian Bremmer is the president of Eurasia Group, and he joins us now. Great to have you with us. And I want to start with Russia and get your opinion about where things stand right now. Now that Lavrov met with Blinken, where are we with this crisis at the moment? Are we closer to an incursion, or did they move this further away?
Believe it or not, both things are happening. We're closer to an incursion in the sense that the Russians are continuing to escalate. They're building up their military capabilities. They've also engaged in direct cyber attacks against the Ukrainians over the course of the last week, and the Americans and the NATO allies haven't had much of a response to that. On the other hand, the United States hasn't had a very good sense of what it is that Putin really wants to negotiate over. The public demands that were being made were all over the map and non-starters. And that's why the first conversations are not negotiations. They're really an expression of interests, of priorities, of understanding where a negotiation could potentially go. And if we have another meeting between the two presidents, it will be much more substantive than the one we had just a few weeks ago.
If you were going to guess invasion or no invasion, where would you put it?
No, I would say that I don't think there's going to be an invasion, in the sense that I don't think we're going to have Russian tanks going to the Dnieper River and thousands of Ukrainians die, because that would bring the one thing that would bring NATO closer together. But that doesn't mean, and there'd be huge costs and consequences for Russia, but that doesn't mean that we're going to have diplomacy succeed. The problem the Americans have right now is that there are a lot of things the Russians can do, like permanent troops being based in Belarus and nukes there, like, putting troops in Venezuela or Cuba and having exercises in the Western Hemisphere, or even sending tanks into the occupied Donbass in Ukraine, ostensibly to defend ethnic Russian citizens living there, that are well short of an invasion, but that the United States would consider very deeply escalatory and would be hard for us to coordinate with NATO allies. That's where I think we are unfortunately most likely headed. And when President Biden in the press conference this week said he thought the Russians were going to go in on balance, but didn't think they'd fully invade, that's actually what he meant.
Okay, let's move on to Eurasia Group's top risks for 2022. I want to hear what the biggest political risks are, starting with your number one.
Yeah, number one is really interesting and in many ways surprising, because China, of course, in 2020 was the single large government that did the most effective job in responding to COVID. They were able to track, to trace, to lock down, and to quarantine. They're the only economy of scale in the world that actually grew in 2020. They got their supply chain back up and running fast. This year, they're going to have the least effective of government responses to COVID, because pandemic has changed. It's much less lethal. It's much more transmissible. You need to not focus on cases and instead focus on dealing with hospitalizations, deaths, and dealing with the virus. And the Chinese, none of them have gotten COVID, so they're much more vulnerable. There's no natural immunity. Their vaccines don't work very well in stopping spread, and they're unwilling to pivot away from their zero COVID policy. So you're going to see millions and millions of people locked down, getting angrier about it, and you're also going to see big stoppages of their economy, the factory still for a lot of the world. So that is by far the single largest risk globally out there.
Number two is Technopolar world. Why is this so high on your list?
Because so many people are angry at technology companies in terms of disinformation and civil society and cyber attacks and whether your data is secure. And yet in the digital world, we call it a technopolar world because governments don't really have any influence. And despite all of the efforts for governments to catch up and effectively regulate in Europe, in the United States, and even in China, which is an authoritarian state, but the tech companies still have an enormous amount of independence because the Chinese government doesn't really know what they're doing. The companies are going to get more powerful faster than the government regulations are going to catch up. And that gap is going to cause bigger challenges for the global economy and for civil society and politics.
And the third on your list is the U.S. midterms. What concerns you there?
The fact that it's kind of fundamental to a democracy that you have to have free and fair elections that are seen as legitimate by both the winners and the losers. In the last few months, Germany, Japan, Canada, they've all had elections like that. In the next few months, France, South Korea, same thing. You can't say that about the United States anymore. And in that regard, the upcoming midterm elections in the U.S. will probably be the most impactful that we've had in our country's history.
What's one more standout?
One more standout is probably Russia, which we talked about. But since we talked about it, I would say climate and the fact that all of the progress we've seen on climate, moving towards net zero, moving towards less methane emissions, is going to meet up against the fact that the infrastructure for that energy isn't there. And what that means is higher energy prices in the near term, and also a little bit of backsliding for transition fuels like natural gas as governments are trying to make the politics meet the economics.
Okay, Ian Bremmer, great getting your perspective today. Thanks for your time on the show.